Today, we are talking about Immanuel Quickley of the Toronto Raptors, the $160 million man who signed a mega extension that a lot of people said made him overrated and overpaid. We're going to talk about why he is way better than the box score says. Yeah, the Toronto Raptors are off to a 1-4 start, and Quickley's three ball has not been dropping. His catch and shoot processing has been poor. His defensive effort at times has been mixed, but don't get it twisted. His game is evolving, and he is evolving into exactly the type of guard that modern offenses need. The pacing, the reads, the defense, the pick and roll chemistry with Scotty Barnes, all of it is trending in mixed directions, but his skill level is undeniably better than it was in New York. We'll break down the film, the numbers, and why Quickley's early season slump might actually be hiding real growth that Raptor fans should feel excited about. If you're new around here, my name is Rob. This is PENSARE Basketball. We do weekly Raptors content, sometimes 4, 5, 6 times a week, sometimes 2, 3 times a day. And, this is a bumping community. We got you covered after every single game, win, lose, draw. We don't care. We are up 2 a.m., 3 a.m. We're dissecting these games. So if you are looking for a productive, analytical, fair Raptors community, certainly consider joining up either by becoming a subscriber, by hitting that little subscribe button, hitting notifications, make sure you don't miss any videos, or by becoming a member. We have 170 members. Our goal is to get up to 250 before the year's end. Whether you're a baller or a chatter, or whether you're a VIP, every membership goes a very long way towards supporting free Raptors content. Okay, man, we got to talk about Immanuel Quickley. Okay, give me one sec here. Make this. So, listen, as a Raptors content creator, my job is to give you the truth, whether I like the truth or whether I don't like the truth. If I don't like Scotty Barnes, if I like Scotty Barnes and he's playing like terrible, I got to tell you he's playing terrible. And right now, I haven't been a really huge fan of Immanuel Quickley to start the season, but I'm reminded that the film will always tell the truth. Happy Halloween to everybody. Happy NBA Cup Day to everybody, because the Toronto Raptors are heading out on the road today to face the Cleveland Cavaliers. And, maybe they will get lucky with the injury bug, because while they will be missing their starting center, there's a chance that the Cleveland Cavaliers will also be missing their starting center, Jarrett Allen. Kind of gives the Raptors a chance in this game if they can get their act together. There's a lot of positives. We broke it down yesterday. There are positives to take from this 1-4 start. It's not copium, guys. I promise you, I am the last person to have to drink copium. I'm willing to take the tough medicine. And, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Yeah, the starting lineup has some issues. A lot of people are blaming Immanuel Quickley for that. In this video, I hope to diagram to you why Immanuel Quickley is better than most people in Raptors land think he is. I've heard a lot of slanderous stuff said about Immanuel Quickley. And look, I have been harsh on Quickley, but I'm harsh because I expect more. I'm harsh precisely because I believe in the guy. I'm harsh because I said he was one of the closest things to Steph Curry in this league. And I really do believe in Immanuel Quickley. I hate to tell you this. I mean, it's the coverage has not been right. The coverage has not been right. And he's obviously reacted to it by blocking a whole bunch of accounts on Twitter and all that stuff. So I want to dissect Immanuel Quickley's game, and I want to do it fairly. I want to be fair to Quickley. So let's dive in. First of all, let's look at some numbers that are probably going to be a little bit surprising to people who think he is just terrible. First of all, this is not the right way to do this. Here we go. This is a better way to do this. So these numbers are freely available from Second Spectrum on NBA.com. You can definitely go check them out for yourself. You can get very familiar with it. We'll use some of these numbers in our members' lives, which are members-only lives on Sunday, plugging that while I have a chance here. But here you will see Immanuel Quickley is actually the anti-Scotty Barnes in terms of his offensive possessions. It is when his touches are less than 2 seconds that his field goal percentage is 32%. And it is when his touch is greater than 6 seconds that his field goal percentage is north of 60%. And that is the exact inverse of Scotty Barnes. Scotty, the longer he holds on to the ball, the more he has to dribble, the more he has to create, the more defenses zone up, the worse it looks for Scotty Barnes. Scotty's best possessions are 2 seconds, 3 seconds in, quick hitters, one dribble, pull ups, things like that. When Scotty starts dancing with the ball, it's usually a it's a bad result for the offense, and it has been that way for quite some time. Um, if you're looking at Immanuel Quickley shooting this season, obviously shooting variance has to be factored into any 5-game sample. We have years and years of data on Immanuel Quickley that suggests to me that he is a very good shooter. He is currently struggling from the line, and he's currently struggling from three. But as I pointed out in yesterday's live, he is shooting incredibly well around the rim, and that is something that you can probably look into. Raptors inside her saying, can we trade IQ for Ryan Rollins, who held defenders to below 35% true shooting around and scored 32 points? Look, Ryan Rollins has been amazing for the Milwaukee Bucks. Watching that game yesterday was an absolute revelation. His pick and roll synergy with Giannis and Bobby Portis and Miles Turner this year has been incredible. Ryan Rollins is probably a safe bet for MIP this year if he continues to play like this. He averaged 6 points per game last year. I think he's averaging close to 18 right now. Ryan has been amazing, but it is in fact watching Ryan Rollins and watching, Natisha Heidegger and watching, all the dynamic guards that I've seen play basketball. Even, you're saying Rollins sanity. Yeah, well, Lynn Sanity was another example of a guard who can create off the dribble. I'm going to take a film breakdown look at this eventually when we get past the analytics on IQ, but I think that if you're looking at this, he is shooting 28% on wide open shots. Like, this is not going to continue. It's not going to get worse for Immanuel Quickley. I promise you that. 10 games from now, some of the things that have been said about Immanuel Quickley over the last couple of weeks are going to look downright frigging hilarious. Okay, so I apologize if this is a little bit hard to see. I don't know why it's so hard to see. Why the hell is this so hard to see? What am I doing here? Uh-oh. Why is this so... Yikes. Okay, I apologize. Let me try to see if I can pull this up as an individual screen, because this is awful. Hang on one second. Let me just pull this up as an individual screen here. One sec. I think this is it. Sorry, this is... Nope, wrong one. Give me one sec. Pull this up. Apologies for the technical difficulties here, guys. Okay, here we go. So catch and shoot. Probably a lot easier to see this than the white on black. Sorry, stylistically destroying your eyes here. In terms of 7 dribbles, right? Immanuel Quickley, the more he dribbles the basketball, the more efficient his offense. This is usually a recipe for a lead initiator or a good offensive player. Like, I understand Darko's entire offense is predicated on movement and not holding on to the ball too long, and I get that. But for Immanuel Quickley, his most frequent play type right now is on 0 dribbles. So it's a lot of catch and shoot stuff. He's struggling with catch and shoots. He's actually much better on pull-ups right now. He is shooting 20% on his catch and shoot 3-pointers. He is shooting 44% on his pull-up 3-pointers. It's letting you know that Immanuel Quickley has a verve and a rhythm that he likes to play with. And ultimately, a lot of this is going to come down to, it's going to come down to, and again, like he's been most successful mid shot clock range so far. Again, small sample size, but it is in late clock situations that he often gets himself in trouble. He is slowing down the offense way too frequently. He needs to get a better rhythm and better connection with his teammates. He hasn't necessarily had the greatest pick and roll synergy with anybody. Scratchy throat here. Okay, moving on. This is the crux of Immanuel Quickley. He's a really good offensive player. Like, he's an insanely good offensive player. He's just not hitting his shots. I mean, I understand. I think this is from last year. But nevertheless, like, you will see that there are certain stats that are trending up for him and certain stats that are trending down, but he is not nearly as bad a defender as people like to think. And we'll look at the film and I'll show you like who he was in New York as a defender. And offensively, he does the most valuable things on the court. He spaces the court extremely well. His paint finishing, which was my biggest concern with him, coming out of New York, which he often stopped his drive short. That isn't the problem anymore. He's going right to the basket. So, look, Darko has done a lot of work with guards with the Immanuel Quickley. It's hard to call Immanuel Quickley and Devin Booker in the same sentence. That's a weird thing to say and still, keep a straight face. But he's done a lot with guards who are maybe late to star ascension. Like he did a lot of work with Desmond Bane. I got a cough. Hold on one sec, man. I don't know what the hell's going on with my throat right now. Scotty or Barney saying, Rob, are you watching the Jays tonight? I will try to keep an eye on it, but I am 100% locked into the Raptors right now. We will not be postponing the post-game live tonight. I don't know how long the Jays game is going to go. I think I have PTSD from that 5-hour game, 6-hour game, whatever we watch. So I'm just like, baseball can go for 6 hours. I'm not taking a chance of having to do a post-game live at 2 a.m. So yeah. Anyways, overall, I think Immanuel Quickley is a very underrated defender. I think he does a lot of things positively on defense. And here's how Crafted sees him. Overall, as a player, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Austin Reeves, Peyton Pritchard, Tyrese Maxey, basically scoring guards. Okay, Devin Booker, Jamal Murray, Norman Powell, D'Angelo Russell. Now, obviously, you watch him and you're not getting the same vibes as Jalen Brunson and D'Angelo Russell. Those are bigger names. Okay, let's just be honest. Those are bigger names. They play in big markets. Devin Booker, this is a superstar for most people. Austin Reeves is an ascending star. So yeah, like it's just a really weird situation right now, right? Where you have to look at this and say, what is he becoming? What has he been? And why is the narrative so flawed on him? Right. Moving on to the film. And I think the film, okay, well, first of all, let's just take a real quick look here. You will notice, and why this is totally, hold on. Let me just pull up the right graphic here. I totally rushed this. My bad, guys. Here, so this is the right graphic. So if you look at his numbers here in Toronto, you will notice per 100 possessions, he is attempting the fewest shots he has ever attempted in his entire career at 17.3. That's important. He's getting to the line more than he's ever gotten before. He's just hitting the lowest free throw rate. So right now he's doing a lot of things that are valuable. He's fitting into the offense. He is fifth on the team in usage. He is behind Colin Murray-Boyle, Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, and Brandon Ingram. So he's not necessarily as ball dominant as a lot of people think. I think the issue people have is there's certain possessions where he hangs on to the ball too much and his reaction is delayed. And his decision making has been poor. His process has been poor, but his skill level is upgraded majorly. And right now, I think Immanuel Quickley is sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place because he is compromising his offense, and yet he has an entire fan base that's telling him that he's hogging the basketball and he's fifth on his own team in usage. I mean, that's hard to understand. I mean, this is way lower than his usage over the last 4 years, like way lower. The last time his usage was this low was when he was an infrequent starter in 22-23. So 23-24, 24-25, like everything New York, Toronto has been higher usage than 21%. And usage, to those who don't understand the term, is a percentage of possessions that a player occupies, ending possessions, basically turnover, shot miss, shot make, while they're on the court. So basically play finishing. And there are 5 players on the court. So you can assume in a purely egalitarian offense, everyone would have a 20% usage. But obviously there are off-ball spacers, guys who rarely touch the ball. So typically you start to see stars in the 30 to 40 range. Mega stars would be in the 40 range. Guys like Giannis, Shea, etc. often will touch, 35 to 40 possessions, and 30 to 40%. And then you'll have, your average player being around 18 to 19%. So Immanuel Quickley is not dominating possessions. He's not taking tons of shots. He's just dominating. He's got too much control in the offense for a team that has Scotty Barnes and Immanuel Quickley, but that doesn't mean that he is not a really good player, and that does not mean, certainly does not mean, that he can't have a useful, trajectory with his season going forward. Okay, moving on to defense. Okay, so there's a little bit of Immanuel Quickley defense. Okay. There's a lot of talk about the Spurs channel. Guys, I thought I got into it. I can't. I can't get into my channel. I don't know what email I used. I thought I figured it out. I can't. So I don't know what to do at this point. There's no way to recover it. And there's 151 subscribers on that channel. And I literally do not know how to log into it. I wanted to do a post game live when the Raptors faced the Spurs. And I spent 4 hours trying to recover my email. I just don't know what email I used because I invented a new email for it. And it's not Beautiful Game Pod and it's not like whatever. So I'm frustrated at this point. I don't know what the hell to do. Honestly, I do want to cover the Spurs this year and I want to do it later, right? Like, yeah, you're right. Make a new account. I definitely should. So AK saying I want IQ traded. Just make another channel. I definitely should make another channel. My girlfriend suggested exactly the same thing. And that's ultimately what I have to do now because I don't know how to log into it. And this time I will make sure. I don't know why I did it. Like I signed up in August. It shouldn't even be that long, but my history is just missing and it's sad. But anyways, yes, the Spurs are the talk of the NBA. If I was covering the Spurs right now, I would easily have like 2,000 subscribers on that channel already. So it is a massively squandered opportunity that I've just messed up. And if the Raptors end up, tanking this season, which I don't think they will, it will be a majorly squandered opportunity. Anyways, let's talk about Immanuel Quickley's defense. And a lot of the narrative around IQ in New York was that he was basically anchoring the second unit's defense. Like he was amazing. But there's also context to this, right? Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein, like these are positive defenders. He had rim protectors behind him, and he hasn't really had anything close to that level of rim protector in Toronto. No offense to Scotty Barnes, and certainly no offense to Chris Boucher and Jakob Pertl and every rim protector, Orlando Robinson, but really Immanuel Quickley is working with a lot less defensively here. So there needs to be some accountability for that on the Raptors' own staff, which is you have failed to find proper rim protection and you are overextending the point of attack. Like you'll notice Immanuel Quickley is not guarding 48 feet from the basket here. He is guarding inside the 3-point line. And in this space, he has sufficient length and lateral movement and good awareness. Okay, this is old thought process, old news. Immanuel Quickley played a ton of minutes against starting units, and he was by no means a bad defender against the starting units. In fact, a clip in the opening sequence had him nearly blocking a shot by Fred VanVleet. Okay, so Fred VanVleet was not a backup player. He played a lot of minutes. He closed a lot of games for the Knicks because Tom Thibodeau actually allowed a bench player to close games. Okay, so this is not a factual thing. And I think if you want to be honest, why don't you do me a favor? Why don't you go and watch Immanuel Quickley, New York Knicks, and then just put that and see how many 40-point games, 30-point games you can find. Watch the highlights. If you don't want to watch the full games, watch the highlights and see what you see in Immanuel Quickley there, because that's what the Raptors saw when they traded for him, right? Like you can only judge a decision based on the information that a person had. Like if you draft Cooper Flagg first overall and he tears his Achilles on the second day after you draft him, if you draft, someone like, I don't know, Len Bias, and he dies because of a cocaine overdose, like I can't necessarily hold you accountable for things you couldn't have known. When you trade for Jakob Pertl, a player on a 2-year decline in terms of rim protection, and you extend that much for a core, yeah, I can judge you for that because that's information you had. Trading for Immanuel Quickley, to some extent, if OG Anunoby had his mindset he's going to go to New York and you weren't going to re-sign him, it's not a bad haul. And in fact, an analyst that a lot of people do trust, Sam Vecini, actually said at the time that Immanuel Quickley was the best player in that trade. I did not agree with that. I thought OG was a better player than IQ, but I did think IQ was a very good player coming to Toronto. And I retain this. As good as he was in New York, he's a better player today. If you gave him the exact same role in New York, he'd win 6th man of the year every single year. Like he's a really good player. Let's watch his defense. Look at this hip mobility here. He is able to, trail, and look at the length. He's able to bother that shot from the bigger player, right? Now here, once again, the awareness to get out onto the perimeter, guard with his chest. This is before Immanuel Quickley put on a little bit more weight. And he's a lot stronger today. You see he's so scrawny here. But this quickness is still there. He's not getting blown by on defense. His defensive positioning is wrong very often, right? Now look at this, like point of attack defense. I mean, again, when you are the Toronto Raptors, that's Yuta Watanabe, right? That's a 6'9" player, and he's able to bother his contest. Here, once again, late closeout, boom, bothers the contest. Here, this getting around a screen and still recovering to get out to this contest. There's a lot. Now, let's talk about the offense, okay? Because, again, defensively, he's a reasonably decent player. No one said he was a lockdown defender, but he is supposed to be a positive defender. He's not a negative defender. Right now, I would say in Toronto, it's been a mixed bag. He's been a neutral defender. He is nowhere near as bad as RJ Barrett, Grady Dick, and some of the other players on this team. Like he is, and he has to be better. This year to start has not been great for Quickley defensively. But again, the body of work, do I judge 5 years or do I judge 5 games? I'll choose to judge 5 years. Okay. So here we go. RJ Barrett, 9 to 5, 5 to 9, baby. Here, boom, quick sidestep. Look at the reaction. Now, why does he get this open? Like, why is he so open on this? Because the overreaction, because of the pull-up shooting threat and the shooting threat. Everybody knows Immanuel Quickley is greenlit on every single scouting report as that's a shooter, hot shooter. He can shoot 27% from 3. You'll see in these clips how much gravity he actually has as a shooter. And that massive contest there is not going to happen for any other player. This major overreaction to a player having the basketball 30 feet from the basket, 25 feet from the basket is what opens up the driving lanes. See, on one hand, we talk about how good Scottie Barnes has been to start the season, although I think he's been okay. I don't think he's been good. He's been okay. Just because he's better than Cade and better than Paolo so far does not mean he's been great. This is not a great Scottie season so far. It's good. It's not bad. The scoring is okay. The shooting is okay. But a lot of other stuff is just bad. Like, I'm going to be honest. Like, I'm going to keep it real with y'all. Scottie, my favorite player. But the screen setting hasn't been great. The defensive motor hasn't been the greatest. There's been inconsistency issues. The late clock possessions where he over dribbles have not been great. The self creation hasn't been the greatest, right? So everything with Scottie right now is just like, yeah, Penn wanted Cockbrenner. Yeah, I did, and I also wanted Sion James. So shit, the Charlotte Hornets cooked the straps. Anyways, like this overreaction from Cole Anthony, partially due to Cole Anthony just being a bad defender, but also look at the pickup point. Now, teams are pressing more, yes, okay, and pressing more is going to make offense more efficient, right? But at the same time, I guarantee you, if this is Scottie Barnes handling the basketball, as many of us want, myself included, I do want Scottie handling more possessions. It's a very different defensive coverage because Scottie isn't a threat to pull up from here, even though Scottie has been arguably the best pull-up jump shooter for this team, which is so unsustainable and so ridiculous. I can't believe I'm saying it. But Immanuel Quickley's reputation precedes him here. Now, watch this. This is what a healthy Jakob Poeltl can do. I don't think there's any player on this team that is more tied to Jakob and CMB than Immanuel Quickley. Like CMB helps Immanuel Quickley and Brandon Ingram the most. Like if you want to talk about lineup synergies and pairings, the players who help Scottie the most are Mamu and Jacoby. The players who help Immanuel Quickley the most are CMB and Jakob. And it has yet to be seen if Scottie and IQ can have positive synergy on the court. And, let's just be honest. 3 years of history would tell you if a player does not have positive synergy with Scottie Barnes, it's usually not a player that I'm going to be a huge fan of. But I remain hopeful that the theory of Immanuel Quickley is still the type of player that Scottie can work with in his prime, right? Like Rich saying Battle helps Scottie too. Yeah, of course. Yeah, Jameson Battle, Grady Dick, the theory of Grady Dick, the theory of Brandon Ingram, the theory of Immanuel Quickley, the theory of RJ Barrett. But hey, man, like this off season, I started making a video, which I still haven't released yet because Nafisa got hurt and I got sad. Where I was comparing Scotty Barnes' role in the Toronto Raptors with Nafisa Collier on the length, and Nafisa actually has a player very much like Immanuel Quickley, although Courtney Williams is a very, very, very good guard in terms of processing the court, but she's more scoring oriented, right? She definitely has a lot more scoring. So I think this pairing of Scotty and IQ just needs a lot more spacing, and I think Ingram helps. So there is a version of this where right now the Raptors are the 16th ranked offense, and that's with their piss poor defense holding them down, or 14th ranked offense. And that's with their, again, like, bad defense makes good offense hard because you never get stops. You don't get as much transition runouts. So if their defense can become neutral, and we're not saying top 5, we're not saying top 8, but if you can get top 12, top 14, top 15, if they can stop making so many mistakes, if they can actually dial in and commit, and we'll talk about the defense and what needs to change right towards the end of this live, because Darko did a video with TSN with Javon Shepard breaking down their defensive process. And I did a lot of film study yesterday on the Raptors myself privately for 4 hours. So I have some thoughts about what the Raptors can do and whether or not Darko deserves to be fired. Shout outs to Raptors Republic for that bullshit graphic. But here, look at how high this little slip go screen here. This the threat of Jakob is what motivates us. Now, to everyone who says Immanuel Quickley cannot self-create or does not have, the burst or the first step. I think, one of our callers a couple of days ago said Immanuel Quickley doesn't have a great first step. I mean, yeah, you don't need a great first step to beat Cole Anthony off the dribble, but I think I've seen Immanuel Quickley beat a lot of good defenders off the dribble. He definitely has a decent first step. Here, right? This Mamu screen here. And boom, this is Ryan Rollins, the guy that y'all want to trade him for. And boom, he just puts it up on him, and that goes in. And here just beats Cole Anthony again off the dribble. And, this is what I don't like personally, is because he was looking for his shot. And now this is the frustrating part about Immanuel Quickley. Once his shot is taken away, now he starts to look for Jameson Battle. But honestly, when he made this drive, he had no concept of where Jameson Battle was, which is why he's looking at Ingram. So it's a poor process. He's not a point guard. I will 100% agree with that. If that is your criticism of Immanuel Quickley, he's not a point guard. No, he's not a point guard, but he is a very valuable basketball player. Like, he is a very valuable scoring guard, and you don't have anything close to him on your roster. Now here, Scotty is going to actually connect on this little loose screen here to get his defender off of him. And here, he's just going to attack the retreating, Bobby Portis, a little bit slow-footed, downhill. I like this process. Good, man. If a big steps up on you a little bit, but this is the thing. The big has to step up on him because he is a threat to pull up. And once that mid-range shot comes around, like, we are talking about potentially some star shit here. So that's kind of where I'm at with Immanuel Quickley. Let's talk about the defense real quick. Get myself centered here. So the Raptors defense is the subject of much, criticism right now. And I don't trust analysts to make up my mind for me. So I've heard what they've said, and then I did my own study on it. And what I will say is the Toronto Raptors are simply not executing their defense with force. Okay. Darko said to Espander Barhaney yesterday, I believe there was a quote where he said, we're not asking guys to do this, like this over helping, abandoning the weak side shooter. We're not asking guys to do this. There needs to be communications. This is the best way to teach basketball for young players, but also, like, we have to be better at this stuff. Look, I don't know why this culture, promotes the laziest idea or the path of least resistance always, right? The immediate gratification that social media has sort of pushed onto everyone, which means if you're not great right out of the gate, then you're just a terrible team and I'm not watching you. Like, and I think that just kind of goes to everything. It's just the laziest take wins, right? The simplest idea wins. If I want to write 16 paragraphs about, Scotty Barnes' process this year, no one's going to read it. But if I write Scotty sucks, it'll be a viral tweet. So I think people are inherently a little bit lazier than they used to be when it comes to digging for their own information. And, part of the reason this channel exists is because you trust me to dig for a lot of that information for you. So here's what I will say. Scotty Barnes has not been great defensively so far this year. RJ Barrett has not been good defensively this year. Immanuel Quickley has not been good, but it all works on a string. Everything in defense works on a string. It's one thing, like as I said earlier, Scotty Barnes is having one of his most efficient seasons ever. Brandon Ingram is having one of his most efficient seasons ever. The Raptors' offense is drastically outperforming expectations. How do you remove Immanuel Quickley from that equation when you are talking about that? How do you praise the Raptors' offense and then not praise the point guard? Because he's clearly a part of it. His pressure and the way that he is able to stretch the floor is opening up drives for RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, and Brandon Ingram are having their most efficient seasons ever. The Raptors' offense has not been great by any means, but that's in large part due to Immanuel Quickley struggling to find this new role. But he has participated in some very positive stretches for Scotty, Ingram, and I just think the lineup synergies are all over the best. So to keep the point on defense, hard hedges have to be hard. Proper closeouts need to come quickly. The rotations need to happen fast. The Raptors went through this last year as well. Early in the season, they attempted to play this very aggressive pressure style defense. And this was with Davion Mitchell, Scotty Barnes, a relatively healthy Jakob Poeltl. It just consistently didn't work, and the Raptors were about the 28th, 29th, 27th ranked defense midway through the year, and then Scotty Barnes took it on himself to turn it around. Why was he able to turn it around? Jonathan Mobo, Jacoby Walter. That's why. I'm going to put it very simply. Those guys are better defenders than the guys who are playing in front of them right now. They're better defenders. And limiting the number of non-good defenders is what makes something like this work. So maybe at some point you have to acknowledge that your offense could be better if you didn't have as much on-ball redundancy, and your defense could be better if you didn't have as many glaring holes. But that all being said, nothing on defense works when you're always a step late. Nothing. If you want to look for an example on this, talk about offense to understand defense. Look at what the Boston Celtics are doing right now, right? When you have, and again, the philosophy is the same. Take a lot of threes, right? They take a ton of threes, but they're not hitting them at a high enough rate now. But they've added Anthony Simons, and he's a great three-point shooter, phenomenal three-point shooter. Chris Boucher is a decent three-point shooter. They have a lot of decent three-point shooters. Why is it that their three-point efficiency is so far off? It's so far off because Jason Tatum, in all honesty, creates so much pressure on the defense. And what that pressure on the defense is able to do is able to manipulate the court so that the shooters have an extra beat to take the shot, right? And when you take away that extra beat, the closeouts are a lot harder to deal with. So you take a look at that and you say, the Toronto Raptors have a similar problem defensively right now. When you take away the rim protection that Jakob Poeltl is supposedly going to provide, the backside help is just not there. It puts a lot of pressure on the weak side defender to come and stop a guy going downhill. The Raptors have pressured a ridiculous amount this year. I think they are like 17% of their possessions are like, and they're giving up a terrible. Let me just actually pull this up. This was a post by Esfandiar Barhani, and I found it very interesting. So we just read it out loud because he got into the numbers, and I thought it was a really well written piece. So just pull this up for a second here. One sec. Okay, perfect. I got it. Okay, so shout outs to Esfandiar. He does a lot of great work on Raptors Republic, and he also does a lot of work for the Athletic Daily. So shout outs to Esfandiar. I just want to point to some of the numbers. So he said, the Raptors are 1-4. They've given up 140 points in 4 of their 5 games, including 139 to both the Dallas Mavericks and the Houston Rockets. They're second last in defensive efficiency early in the year, with only the Brooklyn Nets posting a worse defensive rating. Yes, this is a depressing graphic that I myself shared on Instagram today. They're 26th in opponents' field goals, opponents' points in the paint, and 19th in opponents' second chance points. Yes, the Raptors are getting rebounded and obliterated on the offensive glass, but that's partially because they're undersized right now without Jakob Poeltl. It's partially because they're undersized by design because they have a 6'8" power forward who isn't rebounding nearly as well as he should be. Shout outs to Scotty Barnes. And also, he also points out that perhaps the most glaring issue is the team's intended identity on defense, ball pressure, high pickup points, and relentless at the point of attack has completely failed them. The Raptors have pressed on 17% of their defensive possessions. By the way, just for anyone who knows, like deep pressing in the NBA was considered a major, major faux pas 15 years ago. I remember talking to Kevin O'Neal. This was like 20 years ago now, almost 20 years ago when KO was coaching the Toronto Raptors. I remember talking to him and he was talking about like high school versus college versus the NBA. And he's like, we don't press. Like that's one of the things because NBA athletes are too good to press up this hard because the consequences of pressing are that you leave the paint wide open, that you're giving too much real estate behind you and those gaps are too hard to close. So again, in theory, everybody wants to be OKC, but not everybody has the commitment to principles, the athletes, the defenders that OKC does have. OKC does not play a single defender as bad as Grady Dick or RJ Barrett. Their bigs are both better defenders than Jakob Poeltl, and you don't even have Jakob Poeltl right now. CMB, Scotty Barnes, Jonathan Mobo, Jacoby Walter, these are the only players who could actually play for OKC. The only four. On this team, there really aren't more than 4 players. And when you put those 4 players together, your defense is awesome. It's OKC-esque. But when you don't have 3 of those 4 players on the court at the same time, and it's hard because Jacoby's not really hitting his shots right now, and Jonathan Mobo is, of course, a limited offensive player. But Scotty plus CMB, that has to work. That has to work. For the Raptors to be a really good team, that has to work. So, as Fondiar continues, the Raptors are pressed on 17% of the defensive possession, second most in the league, but teams are scoring 1.147 points per possession in these situations, ranking in 21st percentile. This is abysmal, like really bad. Okay. So Darko Rajakovic had a quote, said, "We want ball pressure because that's the right thing to do for young players to develop good habits and grow, but we have to be smart in how we're approaching it." Rajakovic said, "I asked him if it's time to change up strategies when it comes to ball pressure. He said, we're too close. We don't want to be body on body. We never coach that. We can't be reckless and try to close the gap every time when you're allowing easy drives, which puts the whole team in a bad spot." Look, man, too much focus in terms of how fans and how possibly even you watch the game comes down to the guy who gets beat, right? But you don't know why the guy is getting beat unless you watch the entire sequence with an understanding of what was supposed to happen and when it was supposed to happen. If Scotty Barnes, and he has had 15 comedic, shafting a fool type of defensive possessions this year already that I can count. There are missed box outs. That's a defensive possession you don't close, and the other team gets an offensive rebound and puts it right back in your basket. Like what's happening to your defensive rating is in large part due to your inability to get rebounds. It's not just that your defense is bad. It's just that defensive rebounding is a huge part of defense. Like when people call Nikola Jokic a bad defender, well, a Nikola Jokic team is never going to be bottom 10 in defensive rebounding because he is a great rebounder. You need Scotty Barnes and CMB to crash the glass. You need them to relentlessly crash the glass. Now, I understand Scotty has been a lot more far ahead in the offense. They want him to get out in transition, get going early, get some leak outs, whatever, but not at the expense of this. So I think if I'm Darko Rajakovic, the first conversation I'm having with on this team is Scotty Barnes saying, "Yo, you have the ability to grab 10 rebounds a night. I need you to do it. I've seen you do it before. I've seen you do it for stretches where you can grab 10 to 12. I need you to grab 10 to 12. Maybe you need to make a bet on the team. Maybe you need to create a little, side bet on the team where Darko says the leading rebounder at the end of every single night can skip practice the next day or something like that. Skip shoot around or, get some sort of bonus perk or something. Like you need to create some sort of identity where everyone's crashing glass because too often RJ's standing around, IQ standing around, Grady is totally fucking useless. Jonathan Mobo is trying to box out as the guy who he's boxing out to help, does not even reach for the rebound. So it is a problem when off of offensive rebounds comes the most efficient offense. Kick out threes off of offensive rebounds historically have been the most efficient threes because the defense is not set and it is like the perfect place, like from underneath the basket. Like when you think about players shooting around, think about this. And that's probably not something you've ever heard before, but think about what I'm saying. When you're a shoot around, right? Where does the pass come from? Almost always it comes from the trainer or the coach or the personal assistant underneath the basket. So when a player like Steven Adams catches the ball underneath the basket and flings it out to Jabari Smith and he's wide open, this pass coming from that spot in this situation, especially if he's wide open, is a practice shot. You're giving him basically a 60 to 50% chance of making that shot. And if he makes it at 50%, that's 1.5 points. Do that 6, 7 times in a game, and your defensive rating goes from like top 10 to like bottom 3. It is a very important and underrated fact that you must close possessions with defensive rebounds. Now, it's also worth noting that your pressure point being so far up also makes it more likely for teams to get closer to the basket, right? So when you look at it this way, teams are shooting more in the paint. It leaves less of a chance for long rebounds. You're picking up higher, leaves a much better chance for someone to be out of the play, right? Like if Immanuel Quickley closes out 34 feet and tries to pressure or go for a steal, he falls out of the play. That player goes for a drive. Now your entire, situation is fucked because your big, who is the low man, now has to close out on the guard. So if that guard makes it, cool, that's 2 points. But if he doesn't make it, you don't have favorable rebounding position. And Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Grady Dick, these 3 perimeter players specifically have been very, very bad at getting back into the play. When you look about and I'll close this off with a thought on Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal is probably the greatest or second greatest gravitational force in the NBA. What made him so great? What made him so great? What made D Wade and Kobe Bryant so great when they played with Shaquille O'Neal? Think about Shaq. Watch Shaq. If you're an OG NBA fan, you've probably watched Shaquille O'Neal put 30, 40, 50 points on your team, foul out 4 of your bigs. What is the relentless pressure of Shaquille O'Neal? You always have to worry about him at the basket. Number one, he's a good passer, so he doesn't get easily trapped. So even when you double team him, he's very likely to find the guy. You take the passing out of Shaq's game, he's probably not a Hall of Famer. He has a relentless motor and he is tough. So he goes at the basketball all the time. So when a Kobe Bryant attacks a closeout off of a Shaquille O'Neal pass, more than likely the defense is already so far off balance because they're trying to deal with Shaq. You've already got 2 defenders out of position and a third one who's closing out to Kobe. If Kobe can just beat that guy, the low man, who is supposed to be the guy hugging Shaq, is still so worried about Shaquille O'Neal that he doesn't even contest the Bryant or Wade or Penny drive, or he will be late contesting it, or somebody else will have to contest it. And therein lies the cheat code that is Shaquille O'Neal underneath the basket. Force underneath the basket. My big takeaway from this season right now, and the player that I am perhaps disappointed in the most, if I had to do this quickly, Immanuel Quickley is a player I am disappointed in a lot. Brandon Ingram has some things to clean up. RJ Barrett has been very undisciplined defensively, although tenacious and active, but very undisciplined and very poor processing on defense. But the player that I'm most upset with to start the season is probably Scotty Barnes, if I'm being honest. And this is not coming down on Scotty. He is making his threes. He is, hitting his catch and shoot shots. He's trying his best defensively, but his abilities are not matching his production right now. I want to give him some grace because it might be, the tendonitis in the knee and whatever we saw him dealing with in preseason. But I genuinely believe that he can solve this problem almost by himself. That there is a force that he needs to play with, a toughness that he needs to play with, a consistency that he needs to play with that he has yet to play with this year. He needs to be a constant, aggressive attacker on both ends. If that means you can only play 27 minutes because you're playing super two-way, then I would rather those 27 minutes than 34, 35, where it's kind of catch and go, you know? If you need to limit the stints, fine. But his first stint with the Raptors, so like, Darko talked about two stint players, three stint players. Sakati is a three stint player because he's a really high energy player on both ends. So very quickly, he is usually the first guy off the court, which is usually never the star. The star is almost never the first guy off the court, but they prefer him lifting those bench units, which he's been very good with. He's more of a defensive player with the first unit, more of an offensive player with the second unit. I think the defensive part with the first unit has been what's missing. So I need Scotty to go balls to the wall defensively with that starting unit. I need him to set screens, actually connect, roll hard. And yeah, you're going to get missed many times. Keep doing the right thing. Eventually, you know what? When we do a film session with Immanuel Quickley and you set a really tough, hard screen for him and you roll hard to the basket and you're wide open and he doesn't pass you the ball, bring it up in the next film session and say, this is what happened. Do not set these weak ass screens and then, just give up on the play and just kind of fan out to the corner, because at that point now you're both wrong and two wrongs don't make a right. So, while I'm frustrated with Immanuel Quickley's processing and I am frustrated with his, initiation at times, his, you know, tendency to overhold the ball, the numbers are important because the numbers dissect and cut through the narrative. And sometimes narratives can go too far in players, right? Like they can go too far because, when I say Emmanuel Quickley holds the ball too much, you see 4 possessions of him holding the ball too much. You don't even see the 18 possessions where he did the right thing. You just see the 4 possessions where he did the wrong thing. And, 18 out of 22 is not bad. So James saying Scotty half-assing the screens. Yeah, I mean, he set some good ones. He set some bad ones. I can't say overall I'm thrilled with the process of Scotty screens. I do want to give a very, very quick, let's call it report card on Scotty Barnes. This is something that I shared on X, and I will close this live with that. I will have you guys covered after the game, by the way. So shout outs. I will have you guys covered. And, if y'all watching, shout outs to also the San Antonio Spurs. 5-0, beat the crap out of the Miami Heat. Also, shout outs to the Milwaukee Bucks, who are off to a 4-1 start and won last night at home against the Golden State Warriors against all odds without Giannis Antetokounmpo, as Ryan Rollins basically destroyed the Golden State Warriors. Okay, so where are we at? Okay, so here's my Scotty Barnes report card. Here's the good and bad report from the first 5 games. So good, pull-up jump shooting, offensive efficiency, paint finishing. He's limiting turnovers, low dribble possession efficiency. So basically like the catch and drive, catch and shoot stuff that's been very good. One dribble pull-ups have been very good. Transition frequency and pace. He is the one guy on this team. He to some extent, Brandon Ingram, RJ Barrett have been aggressive pushers of offense. Like they are implementing the game plan that we want to get up the court quickly. It is Immanuel Quickley, Grady Dick that sometimes slow things down. And quite frankly, like Grady even has had more good moments than bad moments on that end. So I think the Raptors need to play faster. I think you need to play faster and get up the court faster, because if your offense starts to come down to earth a little bit as some of these shooting percentages come down, like you're not going to be the 8th best team in the league anymore. You'll be like the worst team. The 8th worst team in the league anymore. You'll be the 3rd worst team. So your offense is really carrying your terrible ass defense right now. Distance shooting. So I should have written distance shooting there. And shot blocking has been average, like to decent. Posted below, these are the negatives. Screen navigation, boxing out, rebounding, defensive motor, shot creation on high dribble possessions, primary creation possessions, and assists. He hasn't necessarily been like handling the high leverage, let me force the defense into a double team and swing it out to the shooter possessions. I think he can put a lot more force in the defense. He's been sort of settling for a lot of shots. Short mid-range touch has not been great. Long mid-range has been good, but short mid-range has not been great. Like from like elbow line extended, maybe 14, 18 feet, 14, 16 feet, 13 feet, hasn't been the greatest. Screen setting has been very inconsistent and inconsistent off-ball activity. I think his motor needs to rev a little bit higher off-ball. So those are my thoughts on Immanuel Quickley, Scotty Barnes, and the Toronto Raptors. I remain very hopeful that the Raptors will be a 42 to 46 win team. The dreams of 50 wins are slowly evaporating as the Raptors choke away winnable games like Dallas and Milwaukee. But hey, man, maybe that Milwaukee team that we were supposed to beat, that we were beating, maybe it's worth noting that that team was at home. Wait, no, that team was on the road. My bad. That team just beat the Golden State Warriors without Giannis, right? It's early in the season. These things happen. We're still getting comfortable with it. Maybe the scouting report wasn't the greatest for how that team plays, and they're catching a few teams off their guard. But once 20 games go by, now teams figure out what you want to do. You figure out what they want to do. There's more extensive scouting reports on how to guard a Giannis Ryan Rollins pick and roll, or a Giannis Cole Anthony pick and roll, or D'Angelo Russell Cooper Flag pick and roll. And suddenly it's a little bit harder to catch teams snapping. So I just think there's always like these kind of fake surprise teams early in the season. Right now, it's like the Chicago Bulls are like 4-0, whatever. The Spurs are 5-0. I've watched every single Spurs game so far this season. I don't think they're going to win 60 games. Like, they're on pace right now to win 82 games. A lot of people are projecting them to win 55 games, 54 games. No, I think there are very real problems. I just think, they've had a soft schedule to some extent. I think yesterday facing off against the Miami Heat, they were in a dogfight in the fourth quarter, by the way. They've been in multiple dogfights. They were in a dogfight in the third quarter against the Nets, right? So there's plenty of growing up for that team to do. But yeah, tonight kicks off the in-season tournament. I'm very excited about this. I really have high hopes for the Raptors in this in-season tournament. They have not taken this tournament seriously at all for the last 2 years. They have absolutely fucked it up every single year. It's like confusing to me why this team does not give a shit about this tournament, given young teams are supposed to care about the in-season tournament, and this $500,000 is on the line. I mean, the Raptors have a pretty decent division, but apart from the Cavaliers, who are a little bit banged up right now, who is the team that scares you in our division? Like, it's Atlanta. Like, maybe, you've already beat Atlanta you routed Atlanta. So the in-season tournament, it's going to come down to, can you get tonight's win and can you get Atlanta's win? Because I think the other game is like Washington. So Charlotte, Washington, I can't remember who the other two teams are, but yes. Karen Hall saying, let's hope the NBA Cup is more of a motivation for our guys this year than it was last year. Go Raps. Yeah, man, Scotty Barnes, you love your teammates. Well, think about the Chucky Hepburns and the Elijah Martins, and think about those guys. Think about the Jamal Sheds and the Jacoby Walters. I'll tell you right now, $500,000 may not mean a lot to you, but for those guys, that's an opportunity to get their grandparents at home or their parents at home, or to set themselves up with a better nutritionist. $500,000 goes a very, very long way, even after taxes at this point of the year, for a lot of your young teammates. And by the way, apart from the Raptors starters, Sandro Mamukelashvili is on a minimum contract. $500,000 would be like, do y'all realize $500,000 would fucking be after taxes? Like, $500,000 is basically a quarter of Mamu's contract this year. And hey, can't do it for Mamu, can't do it for Shed, can't do it for Jacoby, can't do it for poor man Jameson Battle, right? These guys who are barely struggling to make ends meet as NBA players, because for real, the NBA, is expensive. Lifestyle is expensive. These guys don't have the off-court deals that Barnes and Ingram and RJ Barrett have. So do it for those guys. And if you can't do it for those guys, then do it for Garrett Temple. All right. Liam saying, Rob, talk about the Pellets absolutely selling their pick next year. Hey man, I like their first pick this year, Jeremiah Fears, but doing all of this for Derek Queen is disgusting and crazy. Anyway, okay, I'll talk to y'all later. Enjoy, and please give this video a like if you learned something, or if you are feeling a little bit more bullish on. Honestly, at this point, I would probably say give this video a like if you don't like Immanuel Quickley. But yeah, I'm trying my very best to be real about IQ. Like, I'm not selling you that he's going to be some superstar. I'm not selling you that he's worth $32.5 million. But he is not as bad as people are talking about him, man. He is not. I promise you, I watched every game this guy played last 2 years. I've watched at least 65, 70 games he played in New York. He's a good player. He's a really good player. He's just playing very badly. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.